Good evening and welcome to an exciting school board meeting. I note there are still some seats in the front rows. Good evening and welcome everyone. Good evening and welcome everyone to our school board meeting. We're happy that you're here with us. As is our tradition, we will begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able to, please stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again for joining us this evening. We have 6 school board members in attendance. Only Ms. Wielden is absent tonight. We do have a quorum without her, and I will declare that we have a quorum and call the meeting to order. Dr. Roberts, you want to lead us through the who and why section of the agenda?
I certainly can. I'll jump into the mission, vision, and core values, Mr. Stenner. So just a reminder to everyone, we start the meeting by reminding ourselves of our vision, mission, and core beliefs. Our vision as a school corporation is to be the choice to learn, work, and play. Our mission is to develop expert learners by partnering with our community to invest in people. The 6 core beliefs: we all can rise to the challenge of high expectations. Learning is most effective when we have choice, flexibility, and see relevance. We thrive when our physical, social, and psychological needs are met. Our community and school district are stronger when we partner with one another. We flourish because of the diversity and variability in our community, and our democracy and democratic institutions are strengthened by civic-minded citizens. And I'll take us through this next piece. We have on the screen public comments, but we are going to jump ahead in the agenda to a recognition. We have several recognitions, and it's great to see so many people here this evening. But one of those, I think there's a band performance at Southside here, perhaps coming up really quickly. So we want to recognize our Southside Elementary math stangs. So we could have Mr. Bachmeyer and Mrs. Keel come forward.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Dr. Roberts and School Board. Appreciate you moving us up this evening so that they can finish up here and head to their band concert. So I want to introduce our amazing coach, Mrs. Keel, Mandy Keel, as she has led our math stangs through a tremendous season.
Thank you, Mr. Bachmeyer, and thank you to the School Board for recognizing our Southside Math Bowl team this evening. I also want to thank our Southside staff who helped us host the elementary math bowl competition back in April. And of course, I want to thank these children's families for all of their support as well. So this year's focus for the math bowl competition was algebra. And during our practices, we reviewed familiar concepts like order of operations and combining like terms, but we also learned how to use our friend Binomial George and also use formulas to solve algebraic sequences. And all of this in only 30, 45, or 60 seconds, which is challenging even under the best of circumstances. But when we gathered the team together a couple of weeks ago for our end of year celebration, I asked the team to reflect on what they most enjoyed about their experiences on this year's team. And several of them actually mentioned that they liked the tension and the pressure from having to solve those challenging problems and analyze them in such a short time, and that it also really allowed them to collaborate and work with one another to gain some confidence in their math abilities and ultimately to come together as a team. And so these children remained as calm and as focused during that competition in April as they did during all of the practices in our classroom leading up to that competition. And after winning the regional competition, we anxiously awaited those statewide results, and they knew that their score of 31 out of 32 questions answered correctly with some really, really tough questions placed them in a really good competitive spot. And so we gathered together the next day as soon as we saw that link go live, and after clicking on it, we realized that it came down to the fourth and final tiebreaker category, but that ultimately these children won an outright state championship title in the blue class for our elementary math bowl competition. So you can imagine that as soon as they saw that, there were lots of screams and shouts, and they were jumping for joy and hugging and cheering. So I'm so proud and excited to introduce these state champions to you this evening. Only Sid Batula couldn't be here tonight. So Math Stings, as I call your name, if you could please raise your hand. Tim Kaharski, Shreyan Kulkarni, Xavier Zhang, Bowden Keel, Natalie Munger, Kate Yang, Niharika Koda, Hamsika Vinamanini, Ruhana Goyal, Stavia Suresh, Avni Tile, Advait Shinde, Amay Anup, Luke Wu, Shrikar Redam, Advait Shinde, Ritvik Prithvi Raj, Advait Anup, and Sichin Liu. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Thanks for representing Southside. Thank you. Congratulations. Good job, Richard. Good job. Thank you. Appreciate all your hard work. Congratulations. Good job. Thank you. Good job for Southside. Yay. Congratulations. Thank you, Mustang. All right. Good evening. Thank you. Congratulations. Good job. Good job. Thank you. Very much. Good job. Go Southside. Thank you. Very nice. Skill. Thank you for your work. Very good job. Oh, okay. Good deal. So we're going back to the regular order now?
Yeah, we will. Well, it's hard to top that. State champions, congratulations again to Southside in the math dance. We'll start off with, during our board meetings, we always have a time for public comment. Based upon state statute, we need to have an extra one tonight because we have moved up some of our personnel, our human resources recommendations. And again, anytime our board is going to take action, there does need to be an opportunity for public comments. So at this time, we'll ask for public comments in regards to personnel approvals only. So if somebody would like to make a public comment in regards to those, which are again coming up next, this is that opportunity. Okay, seeing no one raising their hand or coming forward, we will move on to the administrator approvals. Mr. Stenner, and we'll turn things over to Dr. Pleak.
Good evening. At your seat this evening, you had information regarding the 3 approvals, and as I request them this evening, we will do them individually and vote on them individually. So it's with great pleasure for all 3 of these administrative approvals to put forth for you. So I request approval of the Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations as presented this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Pleak. Board members, is there a motion?
I move that we approve Dr. Bozeman as Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operation.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Dr. Brett Bozeman as new Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations. Is there any discussion? If we're ready for the question, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign? The motion is unanimous. Dr. Bozeman, be careful what you wish for.
Hey, Dr. Bozeman, now you get to stand there awkwardly as I talk about you. So, I would say thank you to the interview committee, but we didn't have one. This is a change of title for Dr. Bozeman. He has spent the last I believe, are we on 5-6 years as the Director of Operations for BCSC. Before that was the principal at Schmidt and assistant principal at Northside, and taught in both Danville and IPS as middle school and elementary 6th grade teachers before coming to BCSC. He earned his PhD from Indiana State, and as well as his master's at Indiana State, and then Southern Indiana is where he earned his Bachelor of Science. His better half also teaches for us, Brittany, and he has 2 terrific kids, and I'm excited to have Dr. Bozeman add a comma and to his title. I warned him earlier that we may continue to just add comma and, but please join me again in congratulating Dr. Bozeman on his promotion.
Dr. Roberts, Dr. Phillips, Dr. Pleak, Cabinet, and school board members, thank you. Thank you for taking the chance on this farm kid from the region. Thank you for representing the community well and allowing Brittany, Riley, Trenton, and myself to be a part of it. A few days ago at a conference, I was asked what has drawn me to Columbus, and as I reflected on that, I jotted down a few notes. I told this person that Columbus is unique. I came here for a job, but quickly realized that this place is much more. I learned that people and groups like the Heritage Fund, United Way, SUCAS, the San Suzy, the FFY, the CEC, and a dozen or more others all work for the common good for the children of the best community of its size in this country. I'm overwhelmed by the amount of support around us. I had the opportunity to work at Schmidt and learned and grew more professionally there than I had anywhere else. I learned from people like Kathy Denniston, who is easily one of the best teachers I've ever encountered, and is sitting somewhere behind me as we're going to recognize her and some other heroes here upon retirement. Columbus has many Kathy Dennistons that do remarkable things for kids. Last Monday, a former student of mine called me to tell me that he got into college. I won't share his name, but I can tell you that his family moved to Columbus under great turmoil. Columbus North has done a tremendous job of raising this young man and turning him into a tremendous leader, and now his 9 siblings and first cousins see him going to college as first generation, and that family tree has been ever changed. Columbus raised that young man and raised that family. Columbus has also raised our kids. My son and daughter are tremendously talented, kind, and caring people who are simply products of this community. Brittany and I owe everything to giving back. So when asked if I would give more to this community in an expanded professional role, the answer is yes. I appreciate your trust and support and will continue to give everything I have to BCSC.
Next, I would ask for approval of Dr. Aaron Stahlbaum as the next Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources.
I move that we approve Dr. Aaron Stahlbaum as the next Assistant Superintendent for HR at BCSC. I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Approval of the recommendation of Aaron Stahlbaum as Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources. Dr. Phillips? Dr. Pleak? Vote. Thank you. All those in favor of the vote, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Dr. Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Stenner. So I'm excited and proud to introduce you to Dr. Aaron Stahlbaum, the next in a long line of excellent leaders who have been in this position in BCSC. Dr. Stahlbaum graduated with her PhD from Indiana State University as well as her master's from IUPUI and her undergrad from Ball State. She has most recently been at Monroe County Community Schools for the last 2 years in this same role, Assistant Superintendent for HR and Professional Learning. Before that, she was in Kokomo School Corporation as the Director of Transformation Zones and Systems Improvement. And she also worked for the Department of Education and taught in Greenwood schools for several years. Dr. Stahlbaum Someone texted me the other day and said, this might be the best hire of your life. I said, you're setting her up with some high expectations there. And yeah, Brett says, they didn't know about you, Dr. Bozeman, at the time. This person didn't. Please join me in congratulating and welcoming Dr. Erin Stahlbaum.
Thank you. I also know I have big shoes to fill, so thank you, Dr. Roberts, Dr. Phillips, and members of the Board of School Trustees and the BCSC cabinet members. I am honored to join the Bartholomew Consolidated School Corporation in a position that focuses on the faculty and staff who shape our students' lives and have an immense impact on the community. As a first-generation collegiate scholar and K-12 student once identified as low SES, I know firsthand the power of an exceptional education from an engaged staff members dedicated to being change agents in the lives of all students. From our students' first bus ride to their walk across the stage, there are countless staff members who embody the mission of BCSC to develop expert learners by partnering with our community to invest in people. It is due to this passion for collaboration focused on student and staff success that my family and I are looking forward to joining the community. Thank you for this opportunity to make an impact as we focus on the goals of the strategic plan for everyone at BCSC to actualize their fullest potential with the supports necessary to thrive in the greater Columbus community. Thank you.
The next recommendation is for the new principal, the next principal at CSA New Tech. Before I make the recommendation, we did invite the interview team or anyone from New Tech to come and be in support and in attendance. We have a lot of them here. So if you are currently working or a student at CSA New Tech, please stand or wave your arms. We see several in the back. So let's stand and show the support that's coming out tonight for this position. That's great. That's amazing. It is with great pleasure that I recommend for approval Mr. Josh Giebel as the superintendent. Good, I almost did. Josh, congratulations, you got a promotion. Let's start that again. I recommend Mr. Josh Giebel to be the principal at CSA New Tech High School.
Thank you, Dr. Pleak. Board members, you've heard the recommendation from Dr. Pleak. Is there a board member that would like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the hiring of Josh Giebel as the new principal at CSA New Tech.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Nallen. Mr. Major, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Giebel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Stenner. Thank you, board. Mr. Giebel is representing Ball State as both where he earned his administrative certificate as well as his master's in mathematics. But before that, his bachelor's came from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Mr. Giebel has been the director of the Columbus Virtual Pathway for the last 3 years, and the CSA New Tech staff will welcome him back as he spent the beginning of his career in BCSC there as a math teacher for 8 years and then 3 years as the guidance counselor. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome and show your appreciation for the second ever principal at CSA New Tech High School.
Good evening. I want to start by saying a heartfelt thank you to the school board, Dr. Roberts, Dr. Phillips, Dr. Pleak, Mr. Edwards, and the entire hiring team that put their trust in me to be the next principal at CSA New Tech. I also want to express my gratitude to my fiancée Shelby, who has been my biggest supporter and cheerleader. Without her unwavering encouragement, I wouldn't be here today. Throughout my journey at CSA and CVP, I've been fortunate to work alongside incredible educators and leaders who have continuously challenged me to strive for excellence for the sake of our students. To everyone I have worked with, thank you. Your work is important and you inspire me every day. I owe a special debt of gratitude to Mike Reed. His guidance, support, and friendship have been instrumental in helping me realize my dream of leading CSA New Tech. My hope is to honor his legacy by making meaningful contributions to our school's future. 14 years ago, when Mike offered me a teaching position at CSA New Tech, I knew I had found a special place where I could make a real difference for students in education. I embraced my opportunity to leave my mark on the school by becoming a certified PBL facilitator and trainer, and ultimately building the CSA way. This experience not only allowed me to coach our facilitators, but also gave me a deep appreciation for the transformative power of educational leadership. Working closely with Mike as a counselor and co-leader further solidified my passion for leading a school. Together, we pioneered a revolutionary pathway for our students, and I grew immensely in confidence and experience. 3 years ago, I embarked on a new adventure leading Columbus Virtual Pathway. At CVP, I was able to spread my wings as a leader and really grow into my role. While it was a life-changing experience, my heart was always with CSA New Tech and its revolutionary approach to education. I am thrilled to return home to CSA New Tech and continue building upon the incredible legacy left by our students, staff, and leaders. CSA New Tech, get ready for the next chapter of innovation and excellence. I'm excited to lead us into a bright future together.
Congratulations to all three, and we thank everyone that participated in those selection processes.
Thank you, Mr. Stenner. We'll move on to another recognition, which is for you all as school board members. So the Indiana School Boards Association does recognize school boards based upon a variety of factors, one of those factors being participation in various professional development activities that they provide during the year. So it's a collective status based upon individuals and then other criteria as a unit. Each award represents that ongoing commitment to continue learning and excellence in school board service. So it is with pride that I offer our school board an exemplary governance award from the Indiana School Boards Association. And Mr. Stenner, as Vice President, I will present this to you.
Very cool. Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Dr. Pleak, it looks like we're back to you again.
I think this is the third meeting in a row where I've been in front of you standing and recognizing amazing people that sacrifice each and every day to provide the best opportunities for our students here at BCSC. And tonight is just kind of the end of all of this and the biggest celebration when we look at retirement and individuals from BCSC. So tonight, or this year at this time, we'll have more, but at this time we have 28 retirees, teachers and certified and classified staff, including teachers, administrators, and classified. And before I start recognizing them, we will share a video that Mr. Burnett created that shows all 28 of them. retirees to please check in when they came to the meeting this evening so we can recognize the ones in attendance. After I get through the list, if anyone snuck in after we did that, we'll call them up as well. We want to make sure if you're in the audience that you do get recognized for your years of service. So retirees, I will announce your name, your position, your years with BCSC. You'll come up and we'll just line up here in a long line until we get through introducing everyone. And at the end, if you'll go out into the hallway so we can be sure to get a picture of you as a group, we would greatly appreciate it. So before I start introducing 15 of the 28 individuals, and part of that, wondering, because the past couple of years it's kind of been that way, around half, and when we kind of talk, the ladies and I do, we talk to them, some of them do not want the recognition. They've given the years, and sometimes it's challenging to make that decision or to face all that. So whether they're in attendance or not, with that video, we show some admiration and respect to them when we thank them for what they did. But in combined total, we will say with our 28 people that are retiring from us, they have given BCSC 748.5 years of experience as serving our students and community. So that is a big night. We will get started with Karen Allen. Karen Allen is a special education teacher at Richard. She was with BCSC 33 years. Next up, Kelly Bowes, Secretary, Admin Assistant at Northside for 28 years. Laura Burbrink, CSA Lincoln, CSA New Tech, UDL Facilitator, 13.5 years. Kathy Dennison, teacher, grades 5 and 6 at Schmidt for 33 years. Waltra Denton, we also call her Wally, food service, Rock Creek Elementary Cafeteria Manager with BCSC for 52 years. Melody Guess, food service, secondary cafeteria manager at Central for 22 years. Anita Greider, kindergarten teacher currently for Parkside Elementary with BCSC, 33 years. Gail Kors with BCSC, 36 years, finishing up her tenure as an elementary curriculum specialist. Tracy Likens, East, Columbus East and CVP, foreign language, Japanese, 28 years. Diana Mann, 26.5 years, McDowell Alt Education Restart Program. Karen Meisner, Support Services, ISC building with BCSC, 45 years. Michael Reed, CSA New Tech High School Principal with BCSC, at least 30 years. Jim Roberts, 8 years as BCSC Superintendent. Dana Thompson, elementary teacher, Parkside Elementary, 25.5 years. Jana Thompson, Columbus North High School, our Chinese teacher, EL teacher, 17 years. So you may have seen me stumbled as I'm introducing them. The reason is because as I'm thinking about each one of them, I can think already of all the different ways they've served us. So when I read their current position, some of them have moved around either grade levels, buildings, positions within our district. So the one I was reading was current, but also in my head I was reflecting back on all the other ones I know that they've served our great school corporation. So at this time, in front of the public, these 15 of our 28, is there anyone else that did show up that I did not call? Don't want to leave anyone out. But it's with the deepest gratitude and respect that we show them and acknowledge the years of service. Thank you for all you've done. And just to let you know, as Assistant Superintendent of HR currently, if you ever want to come out of retirement, BCSC is always looking for great individuals to serve the needs. So thank you so much. Congratulations. One last round of applause, please.
Dr. Roberts, thank you for your years of service. All right. Appreciate your service. Thank you. You too. Dr. Roberts really retired. No, they've gone out to take a photo in the hallway. For the next section of recognition, Dr. Phillips, you want to introduce?
Thank you, Mr. Stenner. We want to, at this time, recognize the Academic Bowl state finalists from Columbus North, Central Middle School, and Northside Middle School. Mr. Edwards, please come on up and let's hear about their successes. There it is.
Thank you, and I just took that long walk around actually to introduce Gene Hack, who is actually going to come up and no, we're talking, this is Greg.
This is the Academic Super Bowl state finalists. David Clark, Mr. Payne, and
I jumped the gun. So next time he calls my name, I'm going to walk around and come up here to introduce you to Gene Hack. Right now, I'm here to introduce you to David Clark, who is going to come talk about the Academic Bowl state finalists.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time out of your meeting to recognize our Academic Super Bowl state finalists. There were several teams there this year. I think we had a pretty good year. I'm going to turn the mic over to our Super Bowl academic coach, let him introduce the other coaches, their respective subject area, and then the students that were able to compete and win state championships. So at this time, I'm going to turn the mic over to Mr. Brian Campbell, the lead on our academic Super Bowl.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I'm Brian Campbell. I am the lead academic coach here at North High School. And I just thank you for having us out today. I wanted to thank a few people. The administration here at North has been super supportive. They're always great when we need things. I also have to thank, though, Cheryl Brosey, the secretary. When I screw up and forget to get something signed or need something the next day, she always comes through. And Kara Garris, who is phenomenal about making sure we get places. And that's always my greatest fear, but she always makes sure we do that. This year was a phenomenal year. We started out at districts at Shelbyville High School, and of the 5 events, we won 4 of them, and went down to qualify for state, the state championships at Purdue last weekend. We had 4 teams go. Our English team didn't make it. They lost by 1 point on the 3rd tiebreaker. Yes, so we were literally so close on that. Otherwise, all of our teams would have gone. But this year was a phenomenal year. And up at Purdue for the state championships, we had science finish, was it, John's not here, they finished 3rd, 2nd, science. Our math team got 3rd, and our social studies team, which I've been doing this now 10 plus years, we have never won our district. We won our district this year, which was phenomenal thanks to our new coaches. And at state, we were 7th, and that's just a phenomenal showing for us. And then with the students that were right here, there's a category called interdisciplinary, which is kind of like the catch-all. They have to be super smart in everything. And they won by, I think, 3 points, bringing home our 4th state championship in 5 years. And so it was just another phenomenal year for the academic Super Bowl team here at North. The coaches are Kate Stahl, Sarah Zimmerman, Mary Lehigh, Mike Spock and John Murphy couldn't be here tonight. And then the students are Addison Hobbs, Arjun Patel, Harshal Gandhi, and Michael Cross. And I promised I wouldn't embarrass him, but I have to. Michael stands in rare air as he's a junior, and he right now is a 3-time state champion with North High School. And if he wins next year as a senior, he will be the only 4-time champion here at North. So thank you for having us. It was a great year for academic Super Bowl at North.
Good evening, Dr. Roberts, Dr. Phillips, members of the school board. We are here to represent Northside and the academic teams at Northside from this spring. So similar information to what Mr. Clark just told you all about academic team competitions, but our teams have been practicing once a week since the start of 2nd semester with some outside studying, obviously, so that we can compete at the highest level and be prepared for competition. So each core subject has its own round of about 25 questions, and some questions more difficult than others, and the winning score based on the total number of those questions answered correctly. So I have 2 of our coaches with us tonight, Mr. Brad Branham, who is our math team coach and serves as the math chair of both Columbus North and Northside, and then Mrs. Emily Richards, who teaches 8th grade science at Northside. So they're here tonight because Northside had 3 teams of recognition that stand before you as math state runner-up, science team state champions, and an interdisciplinary team as state champions. So our math team was a state runner-up, it's worth noting, with a score of 23 out of 25. The team from Bloomington scored 24. So we were state runner-up there, and then science team score of 20, and interdisciplinary team score of 19 out of 25. So I'll read through names in order of team, because several of these students participated on more than one team, so I think it's worth acknowledging that as well. So if I say your name, just raise your hand as you stand, please. So Arjun Vajapayazula, Anand Neela, Krishna Sithanaboyna, Aaron Lecker. And so those are from our math team. Science team, again, state champs with a score of 20 out of 25. Naranjan Pillai, Juan Perez, Alicia Singh, Arsma Tawalda, Nitya Hurley, and then our interdisciplinary team, which, as Mr. Clark said, from Columbus North, is a little bit of everything combined into one. And so members of that team, Arjun Vejapazula, Naranjan Pillai, Isabel Bailey, and Anad Neela. So again, thank you for having us, and congratulations, students.
Central.
All right, well, we'll keep the show going here. Obviously, no pressure on the high schools with all of these young talent from the 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th graders. First, I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to have our students here and be recognized. Also, I want to thank East High School. We were the host for our region, and we had to move the event suddenly over to East High School due to some gym things that were going on in our gym. So appreciate Michael Parsons and Blake Manuel for helping us, and the staff at East for helping make that event go over so well. So I am going to turn this over to Carla Udy. I do want to say that all of our teams competed and made it in the top 10 in the state in every category, so that's an exciting thing for us. Beth Flamion was our math coach, Mindy Summers is our English coach, Maddie Kloppenstein was our science coach, and then Carla Udy is our social studies coach.
Thank you. I did want to say that the topic was the 80s and 90s, and we studied 4 presidents very intensely, and I believe I was their primary source for most of those presidents. But did a great job. Some of these kids also participated on our state winning team last year. All right. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Darnish, Sujay,
Vanip.
Sarthak.
So they forgot their last name. I guess they're a little shy. But thank you very much.
Mr. Edwards and Mr. Hack. Dr. Hack.
Okay, congratulations again to the outstanding performances of our academic teams. Mr. Edwards, we're going to jump into Governor's Work Ethic Certificate at this point, so Dr. Hack is coming up. All right. Dr. Hack, we'll turn it to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President Mr. Stenner, board members, Dr. Roberts, and cabinet members for offering this opportunity to recognize these exceptional young women and men tonight. 7 years ago, BCSC began participation in the Governor's Work Ethic Certificate for 12th graders. Part of this process involved the creation of a governing body made up of our community partners. These partners believed that it was too late at the 12th grade to recognize work ethic, and if it wasn't there, to change it, and believed it should be started earlier. The committee developed a WEC, as we call it, for 6th and 8th grade, aligning with the 12th grade state WEC. The mayor's office took the responsibility for recognizing the 6th grade, and the Columbus Area Chamber of Commerce took the 8th grade. They are known as the mayor's and the chamber's work ethic certificates. To earn any of the three, a student must first make the commitment at the beginning of the year to sign up. Then they must meet all of the following. The student is able to persevere through challenges and problem solve. The student is accepting and demonstrates service to others, possesses a positive attitude and communicates clearly. The student is a self-starter and critical thinker, is reliable and demonstrates responsibility and teamwork, is organized and punctual and demonstrates self-management, and demonstrates academic readiness and a cumulative GPA of at least a 2.0. The student's attendance rate must be 98% or higher, 1 or less discipline referrals, and must complete a minimum of 6 hours of community service or volunteerism. When these students started the Mayor's WEC in 6th grade, there were 534 students who signed up, and of those, 199 earned a certificate at the end of the year. 6 years later, 22 have earned all three, 6th, 8th, and 12th. Each of the students, their parents, and all of the schools should be proud. You're one of the 4% that made it. This is an awesome achievement, and when I call your name, if you're in attendance, please stand up, come up and stand to my right, just like everybody else has this evening, and we'll walk through. Molly Bray, East. Greta Brown, North. Austin Clark, North. Victoria Chuhader, East. Zumi Farrer, North. Carter Gant, East. Hannah Gladen, East. Valeria Gomez, North. Greta Hammerling, East. Antoinette Hughes, East. Jerry Hughes, East. Olivia Jordan, East. Elena Major, East. Brylan Martin, North. Frankie Pollock, North. Riley Posey, East. Kaylin Pruitt, North. Jacob Stansberry, CSA. Addison States, East. Grace Wheatley, North. Delaney Williams, North. And Jasmine Yang, North. If we could, please recognize these students and their achievement for the last 6 years. Thank you.
Appreciate all the hard work. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Good job. Thank you. Congratulations. Appreciate all the hard work. Congratulations. Thank you. Good job. Thank you. Thanks for your good job. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Hack, and congratulations to our students for 3 times meeting those criteria that Dr. Hack read off for us. I bet attendance was one of the hardest ones there to get, probably. We'll turn things over from a recognition standpoint now to Smith Elementary School. Mrs. Volz.
Good evening, Dr. Roberts and the board. Thank you so much for allowing us back for the second year in a row. I would like to thank our dedicated coaches for this robotics team, their partnership with the robotics team. We have Amber Payne, Kyle Widener, and of course, Lisa Haynes. So thank you to all of your commitment with our students in the robotics team. The Sonic Cyborgs from Smith Elementary School embarked on the journey of collaboration and sportsmanship at the VEX Worlds held in Dallas, Texas on May 1st through the 3rd. They qualified for this honor by being one of the top 22 teams in the state of Indiana. Indiana is home to the largest number of elementary VEX robotics team. They have approximately 850 teams in the entire state. The VEX Worlds brought together robotics enthusiasts from all around the globe. The Sonic Cyborgs seized the opportunity to collaborate with China, Thailand, and various parts of the United States. This cross-cultural exchange fostered learning and innovation. Despite occasional hiccups from their robots' performance, they finished in the middle of their division. Their experience underscores the importance of character in the robotics competitions. In the world of the VEX robotics, victories may be measured by awards and accolades, but the true essence lies in the bonds forged, the lessons learned, and the values upheld. The Sonic Cyborgs have emerged as champions in every sense of the word, and we are so proud of you. So when I announce your names, you can raise your hand. Colin Schwartzball. And these medals are from the actual championship in Dallas. Dawson Payne. Evan Bush, and Owen Johns. Congratulations on a great season.
Looks like it.
Okay, we're going to move on to presentations. We'll bring Clifty Creek up for our school spotlight. And reflecting on just what we went through with recognitions and thinking about our students, we have both North, East, and New Tech involved with the Governor's Work Ethic Certificate. We had North, Central, and North Side with the Academic Bowl State finalists, as well as Southside. Smith with the international competition down in Dallas, Texas. So a lot of representation from a lot of schools and a lot of students. So congratulations to all.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Roberts, board, Dr. Pleak, Dr. Phillips, for having us tonight. I have the immense pleasure of introducing Kyla Lifforth. She's our music teacher, our choir director, our rock band wrangler, and all things musical at Clifty Creek. And she will share some of the extracurricular and co-curricular opportunities that we have at Clifty.
I'm really honored to be here, so thank you for having me. I can talk a little bit. I lost my voice, but I'm doing all right. There is a quote that both inspires and haunts me by Zoltán Kodály, who was a Hungarian composer and master pedagogue. It says, quote, "It is far more important who the elementary music teacher is in a small town than who the director of an opera house is, because if the opera house director is not good, he will be dismissed in a year. But a poor music teacher in a small town can kill off the love of music for 30 years from 30 classes of children. This is an enormous responsibility." End quote. I take my job, I'm going to go to the next slide. Here we go.
There we go. I take my job as an elementary music teacher very seriously, not because I expect all of my students to become professional musicians, I don't, but because I know and study after study has shown that when students participate in music programs, they perform better in school, are more likely to graduate, they have higher GPAs, higher reading and math scores, the lowest levels of substance abuse among any group. Music education improves cognition, attention, motor capacities, and social and emotional learning and confidence. And I have references if you would like to see these. So at Clifty, as a music teacher, I have this window of time where I am tasked to spark a love of music in the district's youngest student bracket, with the hopes that they will continue participating in music programs in middle school and high school and beyond, knowing that if they do, it will be a force of good in their lives. At Clifty Creek, in addition to weekly music classes, which all students participate in, students can participate in choir. So these are my choir kids. We actually went down to the admin building today and got to sing to Dr. Roberts. They can participate in strings, and currently we are having our string recital at this. It'll start in 2 minutes. And I don't have a picture of our traditional band, but we do have traditional band, and then we have rock band. When I started teaching 8 years ago, I followed a pretty traditional curriculum, but I struggled getting students in my upper grades to buy in. They kept asking me if I could teach them how to play the guitar and drums, and I would tell them that's just not what we do in music class in elementary. And then finally it dawned on me that I needed to teach these kids with the music that was their mother tongue, and their musical mother tongue was pop and rock music. I still use traditional folk songs and classical music in my teaching, but I started putting a larger emphasis on popular music. 4 years ago, I used my school budget to get 28 acoustic guitars for my classroom, and then right after they arrived, we had to quarantine due to COVID. It was a total bummer. But during lockdown, I watched this movie, maybe you've seen it, called School of Rock, and that movie changed everything. So while we were on quarantine, I signed up for as many online courses that I could find to learn how to teach rock band to my students. And then I used Donors to Choose, and I asked our community for donations to outfit my classroom with rock band equipment. And in 3 years, my classroom was transformed to a real school of rock with amazing equipment that no other elementary school that I am aware of has access to. I start students on ukuleles and keyboards in first grade, and guitars and drums in fourth, and I use a color-coded dot system across all of my pitched instruments so students can move across them more easily. So when students play a G, they play the blue dots regardless of the instrument that they're on. We just finished our 3rd annual Battle of the Bands this past week, and I actually presented to the school board after the very first one, but this year we took it up a few notches. All of my students in grades 2 through 6 wrote original songs with me. There were 19 total written, and I selected 5 of those to perform at our Battle of the Bands. My why behind this project is that I want my students to see themselves being a part of something that's huge, that's big. I want them to have big dreams, and I want them to have a sense of pride in their accomplishments. And to do this, we had incredible, there was a lot of prep into it, a whole lot, but we had amazing community partners, including QMix 107.3, which interviewed 6 of my students about their songs, played their songs over the radio the week of our show. And the whole school was able to listen in, and these kids heard their songs that they wrote and that they worked on, and they sang in our music. I turned my office into a recording studio, so the kids recorded all of the vocals to the songs. And they got to hear these songs on the radio. The Republic interviewed some of our rock band students and wrote an article about it on the Battle of the Bands. That's our album on the right, and there are QR codes that I gave to Josh that are all over. And so when you see those QR codes on the way out, you can scan it and it'll take you to our album on SoundCloud. So we released an album, we got a concert t-shirt, we actually had a design contest. So this was our concert t-shirt. It was designed by a 5th grader named Marco. His design was the winner that we went through. We had food trucks, we had bounce houses, we had arcade games, and a massive crowd who came out to support and witness these incredible students performing songs that they wrote themselves. We did have some setbacks. It rained. We were really hoping to have it outside, but we had to bring everything inside except for the bounce houses. They stayed outside. And the food trucks also stayed outside. But I am so incredibly proud of these students. They got up in front of this massive crowd, and they just did an incredible job, and they were so proud of themselves. This year's winner went to our second grade class for their song Mercat, which the process behind writing, I'm gonna, it's clean. Sound quality isn't great, but. I'll play the whole thing, but you do need to hear the chorus because it's a total banger. He is perfect, not what you'd expect. Kind, smart, and so brave. Half cat and half mermaid. So they drew these picture cards to come up with the idea. They had drawn a picture of a cat, a palm tree, and a magic wand, and then together we brainstormed what story we could come up out of that, and then we had to come up with a problem, because in every good story there's a problem that the main character has to overcome. So there's an evil scientist that tries to get the cat, and the mercat ends up saving it. It's a really delightful song, and you should totally listen to it off of that QR code. So this was a picture of the massive crowd that we had in our gym. But the main thing that I want to convey today is that music programs matter. Elementary music programs matter, and it matters who the elementary music teacher is in our schools. Thank you.
We had some key takeaways from this first event. What you can't see from this picture is there are roughly 100 fans on the gym floor. Our cafeteria is full of fans, and there were still a good chunk of people braving the weather outside to get to the food trucks. So we had a massive turnout. We're very happy, are very proud of our community for coming out. It might sound like an easy undertaking, but with having various whole classes performing, almost every single one of those kiddos made it to the concert. We had a fear that someone would miss it, but we had almost 100% attendance. It was a really great event, and our kiddos can say that they have their own CD, they have their own concert tee, and that they've performed in front of this crowd, which is not easy to do. Thank you for letting us share that with you tonight.
Thank you all. It was mentioned we had the Clifty Creek Choir come to our administration building today, and they just did an outstanding job. If we could do something like that every day, it's would be an even better work environment than we already had. So appreciate that. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
We thank you in person, but we hope you'll also carry the board's thanks back to your team at Clifty Creek. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is school board member reports. I know things kind of slow down a little bit, but I will ask if anyone has a report from one of the committees they attend and work on. Mr. Nowlin?
I have not attended any, but this Thursday the High Ability Broad-Based Planning Committee will be meeting, and sadly it will be Gail Coor's last meeting to lead.
Thank you, Mr. Nowlin. Mr. Schultz?
I was unable to attend last week due to business travel, but the CCIC meeting did occur last week. Most of the discussion was around the alignment of the senior projects and making sure that they are transferable and meet similar objectives across all of our campuses, and then the approval and recommendation for the professional development days. So,
thank you. That's two important topics. Mr. Grimes?
A couple quick items from the school foundation. One, congratulations to all the student scholarship recipients, several scholarships that are overseen by the school foundation. It's worth mentioning fellow school board member, Mr. Nowlin, Dale on the Trail, as he continues his quest of the AT to raise money for students in need of assistance to purchase eyeglasses, and then also assistance for some dual credit courses. And then lastly, the school foundation started its annual campaign May 1, so anyone out there listening that's willing to learn more and or donate to the school foundation, bcsfstars.org.
Thank you, Mr. Grimes. Mr. Major?
No meetings in the last couple of weeks.
Thank you. Mr. Bryant? Thank you very much. Also, my committees have not met since we met last as a board. Cabinet reports, we have 2 on the agenda this evening. Dr. Bozeman, are you ready? The annual food service report.
Good evening again. I will thank publicly Nancy Millspaw and the excellent job that she does and her team provides for our students, but also our staff with catering and such, and have Nancy come to you now and give her annual report.
Thank you, Dr. Bozeman. Thank you, Dr. Roberts and board members, for letting me update you on what's going on with us this year. Our first slide just shows you our average meal participation from August to the start of the school year, and we have had an increase from the year prior, so that's always good news for us. This slide just shows you some of our new offerings that we have had on the menu to help increase participation. On the left is our chicken ramen bowl, middle is a gourmet griller, and the right is our Fiesta grilled chicken bowl. I always like to show some of the photos just because I can assure you I did not have this in school when I was growing up, but they look awesome. And we've always been accused of being the biggest, restaurant at lunchtime, and those look like restaurant quality food to me. The only difference is I took it off a paper plate and put it on a bowl, right? So I'm really proud of those servings. And they went over well with the students. One thing I did want to let you know that, in June we will be hosting, actually here at North, a culinary training with Chef Catherine Powell will be coming in to teach us a regional group of people. We'll look forward to using some of those featured dishes on our menu for the upcoming menu as well. The bottom 2 photos, we were able to source a new farm-to-school vendor for the upcoming school year that is hydroponically grown baby romaine lettuce, and then a butter leaf lettuce that we're going to be serving is from Morning Harvest Produce. No pesticides and things on it with it being hydroponically grown, and we'll probably be featuring those like in our salad bars is where you'll see those mostly. With our reimbursable meals, we are required to meet federal meal requirements. While we're a big restaurant, we can't just serve whatever we want. We have to have some strict regulations on the certain nutrients listed there below. And to meet the child nutrition meal requirements, to keep them consistent with the dietary guidelines for Americans, USDA has proposed some final ruling changes in our requirements of the upcoming school years. They're going to have a product-based sugar limits on cereal, yogurt, and flavored milk that will start in the next school year. They're going to have a 10% limit for added sugars that'll start July of 2027. They are going to continue to allow us to serve flavored and unflavored milk, low-fat and fat-free, and our requirement for whole grains will not change. It's still at 80% for the week, and they are proposing no further sodium restrictions until June of 27. Besides the meal and lunch programs, we also do the USDA summer feeding program, which is being rebranded, I should say, into Sun Meals, is what they'll be calling them. This shows our participation in the last few years. We have, again, had an increase in 2023 from our 22 year. The number for 2023 is actually more back to our pre-pandemic numbers. So that it's taken about three to 4 years to recover like everyone else. So, but it's growing up. Would also like to introduce the Indiana Sunbucks program. That's kind of why we're rebranded into Sun Meals. This is a new permanent program in the summer. It replaces the pandemic EBT. It allows children who qualify, it would be any of our free and reduced meal eligible students that qualified prior to May 1st. They can get an EBT card. It will be sent automatically to them. They don't have to apply. It'll have $120 loaded on it for each student. They're able to purchase SNAP benefit food. So I'm hoping that also will take place where they could go to the farmer's market this year with the benefit. If any child was put on the free and reduced meal application after May 1st, which I've had some students, or if your family just thinks you might qualify, you would need to go to the Indiana Sunbucks website and fill out a Sunbucks application there, and they're mailing these between May 1st and August 16th. The Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010, the intent of that act was to ensure that there are sufficient funds provided to the food service to account for paid lunches. Schools are federally mandated to raise the price of lunches if they're charging less than the national average determined yearly. This is only for student meals, not for adult. This is currently the national paid lunch average, which is at $3.85, which we're well under at $3 a meal. So we are proposing a 10-cent increase for next school year for meals. We in the last few years, we've been getting, in the pandemic, we got additional funding for our reimbursable meals. Last couple years, we've been getting funding that was supply chain, and that has stopped. And so we tend to use this. It'll help with, to pay for labor to produce the meals. It will mainly go towards providing higher quality foods like the farm to school foods we just talked about, and some of the more nutritious and higher quality main entrees, which tend to have a little bit of a higher price tag with those as well. And any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Millspaw. Board members, any questions? The price change, will that be a board action at a future meeting? Or tonight? Thank you.
Letter G.
Letter G, thank you.
4G, we'll have that a little bit later.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Millspaw. Mr. Edwards, another turn at the podium.
As Mr. Edwards is coming up, just want to highlight the Sunbucks program again, referenced by Ms. Millspaw. This every Friday, as Mr. Burnett puts out the newsletter, this information is in there, so going to basically all of our families, so at least they have the route to utilize to get to the Sunbucks site and to fill out that application if necessary.
Here we go. Thank you to the members of the board for having me up here to give this update on the teams. And I see some of the folks on teams in the rear of the room, and I'd like to thank the teams for doing all the hard work that I'm about to talk about. So the title, Assessing the Cohort Structure, the structure's impact on student success, that's really what we're trying to do. We're really trying to impact student success. And so the goal is to be able to do that through the team structure. And I'd like to say that it absolutely does happen, and it started happening immediately upon implementation. So most of the information I'm going to present tonight or talk about here in the next few minutes is through the first 3 quarters. So keep that in mind. When we first started talking about the idea of teams in the cohort model, I stood up here and I talked about graduation rates. And I'd like to say that I may have missed an opportunity to really zoom out and talk about some of the other important pieces of it. I do think graduation rates are important, but I think graduation rates are a side effect, a benefit. Really what the cohort model is about is student success. And so, you know, we talk about academic success or getting good grades. We talk about building future-ready graduates. And what does that mean? It means they're ready for whatever's in the future. It could be college, it could be career. And we do that through helping them build better habits. We talk about fostering strong family connections, and I'll talk about some of that data a little bit later. But we do that through contacting families intentionally. We want to talk to everybody in each cohort through the course of the year, all families, 100% of them. And the last thing we do, well, it's not the last thing, but another really important thing we do is we increase certainty. And I like that because it speaks to finding your person. I know who I need to go see. I know what office I need to go to. If I'm going to be absent, my mom or my dad or my guardian knows which cohort office to call. If I need to talk to somebody about my kid's performance, I know who to call. So it increases certainty, and through increasing certainty, we increase contact. So who we are and what we do. Again, the team structure is assistant principal, a counselor, an academic coach, an administrative assistant, iGrad, and special ed alignment. And so those last two are highlighted because I want to say that iGrad is definitely invited to the table. iGrad has a seat at the table. iGrad does a lot of collaboration with the teams, and the same thing with special education. And so when we talk about the teams, we talk about them being similar to identical. So what that means is they're not all exactly the same, so there are some minor differences between what the teams look like at East and what they look like at North. But they are very similar, if not identical in some places. So on a weekly basis, we work with credit deficient students and other students who are facing challenges. And we do this through, again, weekly team meetings, and there's this consistent review where we're always talking about what's going on with our student population. And so those names come to us because we're constantly looking at grades, and then we're also monitoring what's going on with our students through contact with teachers, contact with, again, the guidance department who sits right there on the team, and we hear feedback. And so through those feedback channels, those students are placed on the common sheet, and then we talk about the students on the common sheet, and we try to figure out what strategies we can use to help them move forward. What does implementation look like? And then we come back and we review, and we do that on a weekly basis. And I say we, I'm including myself in the conversation, but really, again, that work happens at East High School and at North High School through the team structure. Let's see. This slide starts to get into some of the data pieces. And so we look at the enrollment, and it shows our numbers for 2027 all the way up through 2024, or all the way down to 2024, however you want to say it. But the on-campus and the percentage of on-campus is highlighted. And the reason that this number is important is because we've built this structure in the school buildings in order to be able to help the students that are occupying the school building. I'm sorry, I probably got ahead of myself there. So when we look at 2027, for example, we can see that there's 1,006 kids in that cohort, 775 are on campus, so 77% of the kids, right? And then through other programs, there are 231. Now that other programs may include CSA, CVP, McDowell, and that's what we mean when we say other programs. So when we built the structure, we built it for the kids who are in the school so that the team kind of can get their arms around them. So we are kind of unlike a lot of other school districts in that we've got this campus system. So by campus system, I'm referring to CSA and CVP, McDowell. And so what we said was, when those students leave our buildings, they're still our students. If a North student goes to McDowell, it's still a North student. If an East student goes to CVP or CSA, it's still an East student. And so the responsibility has been placed on the teams to reach out to those places, have conversations, and understand what their students, even though outside of the building, what those students are facing. Again, and to work with the leaders of those programs and buildings to identify strategies, implement strategies, and then come back to the table and review. This is interesting because it shows our ADM at the high school. And so most schools face smaller numbers in the spring than they do in the fall. So we see a decline in the number of students in our high schools from fall to spring. So some of them are dropouts, some of them move away, some of them are early grads, but for whatever reason, there are several. We do lose students between fall and spring. And I said this is an interesting number because what it shows us is that through 2017 through 2022, we've got an average of about 108 students who leave the schools in the high school. And so the last couple of years, what we've seen is we've seen that number shrink. And last year, if we remove the early grads, we see it at 39. So it was an average of over about 80 kids prior to the cohorts, and then again it was 39. So we can't point the finger exclusively at the cohort, but we are doing a better job of retaining our students. They're staying with us. So I talked about family contacts, and again, I'll emphasize that this is through 3 quarters. This was the contact rate, and so one of the goals that we talked about was we want to talk to every family. Get to know your families, get to know your students, get your students across the stage. Those were the 3 things that we said we really wanted our teams to do right through these myriad of approaches. So through 3 quarters, we have an average of 80% of our families contacted, which is fantastic because really you want to look at 25% per quarter. And that's probably, again, basement, but we saw the teams outperform those numbers, and so we are, I don't know where we are today, but I did speak to a couple of the individual cohorts last week, and they were down to 10, 15 families that they still needed to contact in the last couple weeks of school. So we are going to meet the goal of contacting 100% of our families, again, so that we can establish that relationship and again, have that over the course of 4 years. Attendance rate. This one's interesting because we don't see much movement in the attendance rate. So it's, I'd call it stagnant. It's neither good nor bad. So what I can tell you is that we are outpacing the state when you look at the state rate. So what they use as a benchmark is 94%, and what they want to see is how many or what percentage of your students have been in attendance 94% of the days. And again, the state rate is 61, and we are above that. We're around 62. So what you see, though, when you look at those charts and graphs, again, and you can look at those online, but what you see is a precipitous drop-off when there is a return to school after COVID. So there's kind of a spike through COVID because there were, and this is, again, at the state level, local level, across the state, there is a spike through COVID because we were having folks keep track of attendance in a different way, and then we had to come back to the building. What we saw again was it decline, and folks not want to come back to the building. And so really we're not back to our pre-COVID rates or even our COVID rates. But again, this number has held steady. Graduation rate. So the number that I have highlighted there in blue is where we will most likely end up. And I say most likely because there's a lot of fluctuation in this number right now from day to day. If I were to describe right now, I wouldn't call it crunch time. I would call it the crunchiest of crunch times. And so it is very day to day and it fluctuates, but we are poised to hit 87%. And so if you look at where we were 2 years ago, we were at 81.1, and then last year we rebounded to 83.4%, which was, an increase of 2.8%. So again, if we hit the 87 mark, which again I feel comfortable saying that we're poised to do, that would be a rate of growth of 4.3%. So that looks promising, again, because we are making progress. And those other numbers you see, 2025, 2026, 2027, those again are based on numbers that we look at on, again, a weekly basis. But this is from, again, the quarterly, so through 3 quarters. I put this slide in because it shows the upward trajectory, and also because it's from a presentation that I did much earlier in the year. And so, again, between these 2 slides, you can see that earlier in the year we were projecting around 87%, and then when I look at the numbers again, we're still right around 87%. Now, I looked at 2025 and we were projecting 92.25, but that has retreated a little bit, and we're looking at around 89. Again, based on numbers right now, but we've got a year to get up here. Diploma types by the numbers. I like this slide because it shows what happens when there is an intensity of focus on our students. So if you look at 2023, we did pretty well with our academic, so the AHD, THD, AHD is Academic Honors Diploma, THD is Technical Honors Diploma, and I see that I failed to put a key in there, but that's what that means. Those are honors diplomas, and so the first line, AHD and THD, those are students who earned both an academic honors and a technical honors. And without duplication, the line below it, academic honors. It's a completely different set of students. So in 2023, we had 191 earn an academic and technical. We had 153 earn an academic, and we had 28 earn a technical. So in 2023, we had 372 academic honors diplomas that we gave out in that class. When I look at that cohort size was 983. In 2024, the same 3 categories, AHD, academic honors and technical honors, academic honors and technical honors, we have 389 students getting those diplomas. And that's based on, again, right now, what we are tracking students to do. So with a smaller cohort, 935, about 50 fewer kids, we are getting more honors diplomas. And so one of the things that I talked about when I stood up here and presented to you last year was we will have people making sure that if this student is only a couple of classes away from an academic honors, that we say, oh, you need to take this class instead of this one. You need to take this class instead of this one, because it's going to put you in line to earn an academic honors. It's going to put you in line to earn a technical honors. And so because we're paying attention, and because paying attention is the wrong word, because we are, again, weekly reviewing what is going on with our students, we're able to move them into the appropriate courses to make sure that they are getting honors degrees. And if you look at the Core 40, again, we are also producing more Core 40 degrees with a smaller cohort. And this is just a representation of the last slide I showed. So this one, is in a chart form, but I like a graph because it, gives you the visual, and you see that when we're doing academic honors, technical honors, and both, that, you know, we are close to 400, like we're close. Like it's almost, it's not 50-50, but we're close. So again, having that visual representation, and that was last year, this is this year, same data I just talked about. Core 40, academic honors, technical honors, again, all the honors diplomas that we're producing. And then I talked about waivers because if you look here, waivers 9.8% in 2023, and then under a new law, waivers can account for no more than 9% of this current graduating class. And then in 24-25, it slides backward to 6%, and then each year after it goes down another 3%, and it bottoms out at 3%. So when we look at what our waiver situation looks like right now, it's about 7%. So doing a great job with that, but I wanted to explain that. And then the other thing that I wanted to explain about waivers is that even if you go above, well, if we were to go above the cutoff limit, those students would still graduate. We just wouldn't be able to count them in our graduation rate, if that makes any sense. So they graduate, but we don't get to count them because it's beyond the waiver limit. So I did want to make that clear. And the other thing that I want to talk about is our discipline data. We have better discipline data than we had last year. So the big three are down. So the suspensions are down, expulsions are down, and moving in the right direction. So I did not put a chart or graph up there, but I did want to touch on that. And then the other thing that we have talked about getting feedback from teachers. And so Josh Burnett and I are working on what that survey will look like. And once we are have that ready to deploy, we will get teacher feedback, and I will send that to you all on a Friday note. So at this time, are there any questions about anything that I talked about?
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Board members, any questions?
I've got a comment and I think a question, sure. Mr. Edwards. The first thing, a comment, I remember the presentation from the North team at our last board meeting, and one of the things that I remember Mr. Clark discussing on what I think was their last slide is that the 4 or 5 bullet points. One was that a concentration to reach out to all families. So the one slide you had up there at 80%, I guess my comment is I'm looking forward to seeing that be reaching 100%, because kind of like Mr. Clark said, you know, all those kids, arguably the kids or the parents of all kids need to be contacted. And even if it's a quick call home to brag on their kid and tell them what a wonderful job they're doing. And then my question is this, about the diploma types. One thing that I've questioned since being a board member is the number of general diplomas being awarded, and why that number, you know, considering the emphasis on the graduation rate and trying to get a diploma in as close to 100% of kids as possible. I just wonder if general is maybe not being overlooked or not considered in the case of lots of kids that could arguably benefit from that. And I just wonder if not considering that might be the cause of losing some kids.
So that's a great question, and I can tell you that it is not being underutilized or overlooked as a strategy. We lose those students prior to that, so we lose them as dropouts. And sometimes it's just a general disinterest in the curriculum. As much as I hate to say it out loud, there are kids who just aren't interested, or students who aren't interested in sticking around to earn a diploma. So we do counsel students to get the general. And there is a sign-off that parents actually have to sign off and say, I'm okay with my student getting a general diploma. So there's that counseling bit in there, and so sometimes we can't get parents in, but also sometimes kids are just, students are just, they're just done. So it's not for lack of trying.
Mr. Nowlan, go
yes.
ahead.
So when I do this, you disappear. So.
Yeah, I know. It's the
I forgot to bring my visor. So my first question is on the diplomas also. So I'm looking at that slide. We had 9.8% that graduated by waiver, but only 9 students got a general diploma. So that means a lot of our waivers are technical honors and academic honors?
No, those would fall. Those would fall in the core 40.
Say that again?
Those would fall in the core 40.
The top line.
Yeah.
Those are.
Yeah. Those would fall in core 40. So the waiver is for the pathway portion of the diploma, and so we would waiver part of that requirement, and they would get a core 40.
And so some of them are still getting academic honors and technical honors?
No.
But it's, I guess I don't see how those numbers add up. Okay. And my other question, I got them out of order here. So the realistic graduation rates, which the 2027, which are freshmen this year?
Yes.
You said realistically it's 91%. So I'm curious, I mean, obviously there's not as much accuracy in predicting that far out, but what do you look at to predict that it's going to be 91%? How do you?
So what we're looking at is if we had to say students graduate today, like that's the today number. And so when we say 91%, what that means is that there are some students who are credit deficient, even as freshmen. But because we know that students will have the opportunity to make those credits up along the way, I'm very confident that it won't land at 91%, they'll catch up. And so that's what that number represents.
And then that brings up another question that you didn't talk about here, so maybe you're not ready to talk about, but I heard something about a new program to help students get some of those credits back that you're going to start this summer?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's a great point. And I did not put that in here because it felt a little bit separate. But so what we're doing, again, is offering students an opportunity, students who are in the cohort, an opportunity to be in summer school to make up lost proficiency. And then so we will assess their proficiency based on computer modules built around standards that we have spent time working with department chairs to understand, what are the 10 pieces here that a student really needs, or what are the 15 pieces here that a student really needs, and then so they will spend time working on becoming proficient in those and make up the gap and then be awarded credit.
And is it fair to say that having the cohort groups help to identify those students that we might not have identified?
Absolutely. They've been critical in identifying those students.
Mr. Schultz? I'm blinded, I can't see it.
Go ahead, Mr. Nowlan.
Go ahead.
So staying on this, does your forecasted, the realistic graduation rates, are they offsetting the anticipated waiver reductions? Because essentially, right, 9.8%, we're going to go down to 6. That means your number is going to be, essentially, if this was the reality of today, it would be down 3.8 points, correct?
So what I showed you with the 9.8 was last year.
Correct.
Yeah, and so this year, we're sitting at around 7. So right now, we're fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Great
and
question.
Then I noticed you said reframing this, and I don't think anybody, when we discussed this, I don't think anybody would disagree, right? The goal isn't to just make a number. I think, but at the end of the day, students entering the workforce, graduation is critical. I think some quick stats I pulled was 3 times more likely to have housing stability, 2.5 times increased earning potential versus their non-graduating peers. So I think like the concern I have is like, that's really just an output number. And like, what's those critical X's? And I kind of didn't see the cohesiveness from the North presentation. It was like they presented, I believe it was ABC squared, right? And they said, here's our critical inputs that we're looking at. And some of the things like I was thinking about as I was expecting was contacts of those with chronic absenteeism, right? So at the end of the day, this isn't, I mean, I do agree with Mr. Grimes. I think we should try to contact every student, but we have to recognize that this is an inverse of the 80-20 principle, and really you're trying to apply 80% of the resources to get that bottom 20% to the stage. And so when we're looking at critical inputs like chronic absenteeism, behavioral referrals, how are we putting interventions and contacts into those key demographics and populations? That feels like it's going to be a more opportunity for this. I mean, I appreciate.
No, it's a great question, and I understand what you're saying. And the thing that I will say is that I tried to stay out of the weeds. Those things are discussed. We talk about office discipline referrals. There's a category for ADM, so we know what students are doing in terms of, or how much they're attending. So we know those things. We know. We know if they're chronically late. We know if they're chronically late. We know if they're chronically absent. We know how much time they spend in the halls. Like there's a plethora of information. Again, trying to stay out of the weeds and keep it interesting. If there are things that you're interested in, I know that you look at data a little bit differently. I'm happy to write something up for you, but this is again just trying to. Keep it interesting.
On the line chart,
sure.
I believe it's the next slide.
Yep.
I do think it would be helpful for the attendees in the community to see pre-COVID, post-COVID. I think we all saw that dip. I think from what I can see, you're holding the realistic, which is great. The only other thing I would add is, I mean, similar to Dr. Phillips, I kind of see this like the tax rates, putting some of the benchmarks in here. So trailing with the state average out of GPS. Right now, I believe the GPS for last year was 89%.
Yeah.
So, right, so at the end of the day, that way we can see where we're measuring up against the state in terms of, are we seeing success that the state's not seeing? Are we seeing declines that the state's not seeing, and so forth?
And I would say we can do that after we have a real hard numbers after this year. We'll definitely do that for you.
The one thing that you mentioned about the cohorts and the non-campus students, it felt like there may be, so does the cohort still have direct contact and kind of ownership of those class students that are in a non-campus, right? Yeah. Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, and I will say that the collaboration is high. Mm-hmm. I spoke to Josh Giebel today to congratulate him on the CSA piece, and what he told me was he'd already spoken to a couple of principals and saying, you can check this kid off your list, you can check this kid off your list, this one's gonna be okay, this one's gonna be okay. They speak way more often than they have in the past. And so, I want to say it's on a daily basis, and it probably is on a daily basis. But for accuracy's sake, I'll just say it's a lot. They speak a lot. So there's a lot of collaboration. CSA as well. Jen Morrill.
And then my last question was on the diplomas presented to each category. I think it was that one right there. Go back.
This one? Yeah, sure.
No.
This is 2 years ago.
My bad. Go back one more. Nope. That one. What's the shift? It looks strange to me that the academic honors jumps almost 3.5 times in 2026. Is that where they start and then we traject down? Or?
That is exactly right. We assume that everybody's going to get one.
Okay.
And then when yes. Great question.
So can I ask to go right along with that, the academic honors and technical honors, is much lower for 2026. I don't understand that.
Give me just a second. So the only thing that I can tell you is if you look at 2027, and it just doesn't seem like we have all the kids in there. 585, 246. So we've got some really big classes moving through North right now. And so we do have some big classes, but the other thing I can tell you is that if you look at 2027, all 1,006 kids are in AHD, and then as it becomes more apparent where they're going to land or maybe where they can't land, they start to populate those other fields. And so that could be well, that's a pretty big number, the 585 in AHD for 2026. Sometimes I just have to sit here and look at a chart. So would you ask your question again?
I did. So I get that the academic honors is high in 2026 because a lot of kids are still on that track and they end up not meeting all the requirements. So it's going to go up rather than, I mean, it's going to go down rather than up. But correct. It seems like those students, it seemed like the same trend would be for students who are attempting to get both academic honors and technical honors, that it would start high and then kids would drop, not meet the requirements.
Oh, I understand. Sorry, I didn't answer that question well. So we start them in AHD, and then they move this way. So okay. we don't necessarily know how many students of that 585 will also want to pick up a technical honors diploma. Okay. Right now we know that 62 can, and there may be other kids from that 585 who get closer, and so we'll know that at the end of the year. Sorry, I misunderstood.
So the THD could actually grow, but
that is correct.
But the AHD would probably
that is correct. Yes, yeah.
I have one other question, and I think we've been told this before, but I don't remember. On the ADM and net decline, is the net decline students that have moved or dropped out or?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it could be for any reason, save early graduation. So that we take the graduates out of the net decline. So if a student graduates early, then we take them out of the net decline. But it could be they left and moved to Arkansas. They dropped out. They moved to another school district in Indiana. It could be for any reason.
But the way the state does the data now, if they move, we're not dinged for graduation. Is that correct?
So that is correct. Yeah. So unrelated, but yes, okay. That's right. So if a student is exited out of your cohort, we're about to get into some deep water, and I'm happy to stay in here and talk about it. But if a student is exited from your cohort, then no, you are not dinged for graduation purposes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Major?
Yeah, real quick, to just use your term to keep it interesting, my challenge would be this, okay, my daughter has 4 days of school left as a senior. I know I have not been contacted. I don't know if my wife has been. I would assume she would have told me if she was by now. But that 80%, I would challenge that we try and reach 100% by the end of mid-year. And that ensures that all parents, all family members, guardians, and others understand the trajectory of that child, that student, so that they know if they're on track by mid-year. Because if you came and told me today that my daughter was 2 credits short and there's 4 days left, I think there'd be some unhappy parents out there. So I would just challenge, can we put the target of 100% by the end of the year is awesome, but I would see if we could push that up higher or have another metric of maybe at-risk contacts must be 100%.
So everything you just said makes sense, and the answer is yes, we can do that. And I'll tell you that if you were 2 credits shy, you'd know. Those aren't the phone calls that are that we're probably making at this point.
I would assume that. And that's why I switched that at the end and said, you know, if there was a kid that was at risk and we're waiting to tell them, that's bad, right? And I don't think that's what you're doing. But it would be really good for the teams to be able to come in here and say, everybody that was at risk of not graduating by the end of the year has been notified. And if you could even show the trajectory change of projection that those kids now are going, 8% more are going to graduate, right? Whatever the number is.
Sure.
That would be really helpful, because I think that does a couple of things. Number one, it shows that it's working, and number two, it gives the cohort teams at both high schools the ability to show, improve, and celebrate some success a little earlier than later. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bryant? One of the things that keeps running through my mind is you mentioned the Pareto principle of, 80% of your effort is probably focused on 20% of the students. And I think that's appropriate. I'm wondering if there's some ways that we could begin to see that, to measure it somehow in the updates and reports that we get. So appreciate the report tonight. Board members, any other comments for Mr. Edwards? I know it's been 1 year since this was proposed, and we certainly do appreciate the work that's gone into the implementation. You and the teams at both the high schools, much appreciated.
So if I can make a comment, it's nice, to look at the agenda and get to see my name next to some pretty cool things, but really the teams are doing the work. The kids for the GWEC, they're doing the work. The academic teams and the academic coaches, they're doing the work. So there are some exciting things happening in secondary, and I'm humbled to be able to be a small part of it. And so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Senator, just 1 second, as Mr. Edwards is stepping away. Thanks, Charles, for that report and that update on this very important topic. And obviously, based upon the questions and the comments and stuff from the board, one that has generated a lot of interest using Charles's terminology there. But as he's reporting on that, I'm thinking about others we have sitting here who are the ones down in the weeds that are working on that every day. So I don't know, based upon the questions or comments, if anybody had anything that just, since we have a few people who are here, if you wanted to just add something at this point, we could. No pressure being placed on you. Just, again, we have some down-in-the-weeds experts that are here as well, listening in on the conversation. If not, we'll make sure, I know we've been taking notes, and we'll continue to look at the best way to present this information to you so that it's easily understood. You see the progress that's being made and the inputs that are important that eventually lead to that output of 100% graduation rate if we're able to get to that point. Okay.
Yeah, so when Dr. Roberts asked this, Mr. Manuel, when you're wearing orange and you're sitting out there, you're a good target.
It is one smiling, isn't he? Thanks to you all for being here, though, to listen to the conversation and again, hear what the board is asking about so we can take those conversations back to the meetings and continue to work on this. Thank you.
I appreciate, too, what Dr. Edwards opened up the presentation with, that our goal is student success. That we've got not lots, but several different metrics to help track that, but the real goal is student success. As Dr. Roberts pointed out earlier this evening, we have 2 points on the agenda tonight where we accept public comment. We did not have anyone sign up for public comment on the blue sheet as we came in. So we are going to the next item on the agenda, Dr. Roberts, which is old business.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stinner. So for old business, we just have one item, which I request approval for the minutes of the last regular school board meeting, which was on Monday, April the 29th.
Dr. Roberts has recommended approval. Is there a motion from the board?
I move that we approve the minutes of our regular school board meeting from April 29th.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The minutes are approved. Dr. Roberts, you want to run us through the other requests?
I do, yes. We have about 9 items, I think, here under new business, which would be supplemental contracts, field trips and professional leaves, school fundraisers, claims and payroll, claims for May 13th, today's date, $1.7 million plus. The pre-run from April 1st to April 30th, a little over $3.3 million. And our payroll for our last one on May the 3rd was about $3.8 million. And then that takes us through the normal stuff. Dr. Bozeman and Dr. Hack are asking for permission to declare some C4 equipment as surplus. You had a list of that. Dr. Bozeman, and on the heels of Mrs. Millspall's presentation, we're asking to set school meal prices for 24-25. You saw that was a dime increase for elementary and secondary lunches, as well as for our breakfast, which is the same at both levels. Also asking for permission to approve the contract for the construction manager as constructor for the new elementary school. At the last meeting, you approved the group, and now we're asking for that contract to be approved. That was in your packet, a lot of detail there. We're also asking for the permission to approve the contract for construction manager as constructor for Smith Elementary School and East High School. And then we're also permission to approve the high ability application and the budget, which was in your packet, and that is my items. Thank you.
Are there any of these items, board members, that you'd like pulled out to vote on separately?
As before, I'll always vote no for the new elementary school, so you could remove that one. I'll vote yes for everything else, so you could, in theory, leave everything, and either way, it's still going to end up, the same way, so it doesn't matter to me.
So we'll deal with item H separately. Other board members, any items that we want to pull out of the package? So Dr. Roberts, I think we've received your recommendation to approve items 4B through 4J with the exception of 4H at this time. Is there a motion to that effect?
I move that we approve all items under new business, letters B through G and letters I and J as presented by Dr. Roberts.
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Grimes. Mr. Schultz, it's a motion and a second.
It was Mr. Nowlin?
It was Mr. Nowlin, thank you. Mr. Grimes and Mr. Nowlin. So is there any discussion on these items B through J, but not H? If we're ready for a vote, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Thank you. The last item for discussion and approval this evening is item 4H. Is there a motion to approve item 4H?
I move that we approve item 4H as presented by Dr. Roberts.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Grimes and Mr. Bryant, for the motion and second. Any discussion on item 4H? Questions?
I do have two questions, actually. One is a challenge to the board. I read most of this over the last 2 evenings. It was great bedtime reading, 150 pages of contracts. I am no lawyer, so I was wondering, Mr. McIver, have you reviewed these for our insurance liability, is this under your area of expertise?
Yes. Dr. Bozeman forwarded those contracts. We've sent the two to you that we didn't have any changes on, and I believe he's following up on one of them.
Okay. And are the red markups, are those from their attorneys or are those from our attorneys?
I think there's a combination of changes. The AIA forms that you have in your document are standard forms for the construction industry, and then those changes are from both sides to get to the final document.
Okay. And I guess the other is a challenge to this board. Again, it's 100+ pages of a contract for essentially a $60 million facility. We asked for public comment, but we didn't share the contract. So the public has no real clue what's in the contract. So I think at the end of the day, like if we're gonna have the contract voted on and we're gonna seek public comment, I think we should post the contract in the future. That's all.
I'm gonna vote no, as I mentioned, but I will say that one of the many things I saw in the contract that I would just open up for Mr. Bozeman to think about is there was a note about 20% self-performance by the construction manager, and that was kind of like a cap, but I don't know if it would make sense to raise that cap if it would save us money. So that's something that I saw that just stood out as something that's, if we're gonna spend that kind of money, and we've got a construction manager that can help us save $3 to $5 million, but we have a clause that says that we're gonna cap them, and they can't do that extra work that would save us that's something that we might want to think about in the future of adjusting that number. So.
Any other discussion on item 4H? We've got a motion to approve. It's been seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign?
Aye.
No.
So my record, that's 4 in favor, 2 opposed. Dr. Pleak, we're ready for item number 5, the Human Resources recommendations tonight.
I request approval of the HR recommendations presented in your packet. There are 9 recommendations. 3 are retirements, 1 resignation, and 5 appointments.
Board members, we've got the recommendation from Dr. Pleak. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve line item 5 as presented by Dr. Pleak.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Mr. Major, any discussion on item number 5, our human resource recommendations? I think we're ready for a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
We have item 6 on the agenda.
We do not have any additional HR recommendations this evening.
Okay. We have time at the close of the meeting for board input and review. Mr. Bryant, any input and review this evening?
I just want to congratulate all the schools and their endowment, what they have done. It really makes not just the school corporation look good, but it also makes the community look good, and I appreciate that. Congratulations to the new hirees or movement around, and thanks, Dr. Bozeman, for coming up and shaking our hand. We didn't have to bribe you or anything like some people. And I'm finished.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Mr. Major?
Yeah, so I got 3 things real quick. So I attended the Columbus East Awards ceremony this last week, and numerous scholarships were handed out to a very large number of seniors. Several other awards were given too, and I just wanted to say thank you to all the foundations that provided our students with scholarship money. It would be nice if we could maybe total that sometime, just so that people understand. The average person doesn't sit in those type of events, so just to see a cumulative dollar amount that's been given out from the community to our kids. We're blessed to have such support in the community, and congratulations to all seniors who are awarded a scholarship and will be working on continuing and learning next fall. The second thing I have, this might be another good one to bring in because I will probably not get all this right. I didn't get a chance to confirm some of this with Dr. Hack earlier because I got this information a little bit later, but several students were awarded as winners in the Indiana High School Architectural Design Competition. BCSC had a top winner with an excellence prize in Vaughn Williams. And then there were honor awards for Jonathan Barbieri, Danielle Cruz, Brooke Leslie, and Bryce Olson. And I believe, if I understand it right, and this is something that Dr. Hack will have to confirm, Brooke Leslie is a 2-time award winner. I think she was a first place last year. And second place this year, so that's pretty awesome work that the 5 of them to see at the top of that, at the top of the awards for that architectural design competition. And a special thank you, I believe it's Darren Johnson was listed with them for working on the effort with those students to achieve the results. And the last thing I had, yesterday was Mother's Day, and I just wanted to thank all of the moms and grandmothers out there working in BCSC today. Wish you a late happy Mother's Day, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Mr. Major. Mr. Grimes?
First, thanks to Mr. Edwards and his presentation on the work in regards to the high school cohort and student success. Also to Ms. Millspaw, the food service report. This might sound like I'm being a smart aleck, but I promise I'm not. I always get kind of a kick out of the new offerings, and I can't imagine too many corporations probably offering chicken ramen bowl, and I still, for whatever reason, I still remember the pot stickers from 2 or 3 years ago. Thanks to the Clifty Creek team and their presentation on the power and extreme importance of music. And then congrats to everybody that was recognized here this evening, the 3 new administrators, all the students and their academic accolades, and the work ethic certificate being earned, and then also to the 28 retirees who have, I think I'll use the right word here, nearly 3/4 of a millennium or millennia. I don't know, nearly 3/4 of 1,000 years of experience between them all. And one who was not here happens to be my Aunt Susie, who prefers to be kind of off in the shadows. So congratulations to her, even though she wasn't here. And then lastly, just to point out, I've had this conversation with a few people over the last couple weeks, and I know there are a lot of corporations out there that essentially use their regular board meetings as more or less strictly business meetings. And so I would just applaud BCSC for taking the time to recognize so many students and individuals. And you know, I know a lot of corporations, they make it their business to be done in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and we're here 2 hours and 10 minutes later, but I think it's time well spent, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grimes. Mr. Schultz?
So yeah, I wanted to shout out congrats to the retirees. Actually included one of my daughter's teacher, Mrs. Stoltz over at Southside, who was also not able to be here, so congratulations. Congratulations to the students. And also thanks to the presenters. Similar to Mr. Grimes, I was remembering a couple of the dishes from last update. I think we were actually here at North last time as well. So I appreciate that and the update on the Teams model. I will challenge again with the board a little bit on, and I've talked with Dr. Phillips a little bit about this, is looking at the community eligibility provision. I think we have opportunity right now with our Title I schools especially to help on the affordability of lunches and breakfasts. So I would hope that we have some good discussion around that ahead of the June deadline, and just being able to help these folks that have been squeezed really by a poor economy and persistent inflation. So.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Mr. Nallon?
I just want to echo that I think it's great that this is our 3rd meeting in a row that we're celebrating students and teachers and staff and coaches and some of the many accomplishments of BCSC. Also, thanks to Mr. Edwards and Ms. Millspaw for your presentations. I am in awe at how many lunches we serve and the need for our community beyond just the school day, the need that our food service supplies to our community. And I wanted to say this while Ms. Lifforth, the music teacher from Clifty, was here, but she's gone, but I will say it anyway. Mr. Stenner and I got to visit Clifty a few weeks ago, and I actually visited her class at the end of the day. It was the 2nd grade class, and they were kind of packing up and doing different things, getting ready to go, and she started playing their song to me, and every kid stopped what they're doing and started singing along. It was just awe-inspiring. They couldn't help but stop and sing, and that level of engagement is just phenomenal. So, and that's one classroom of many, but it blows me away.
Thank you, Mr. Nowlin. Dr. Roberts, any reflections?
Not this time. Thank you.
My own reflections, I'm just amazed at the community support, the parent support for all the students that we recognized. Think about each of the students and the multiples of adults in their lives that have helped support them. Made me think back to what Dr. Bozeman said about why he chooses to live in Columbus and Bartholomew County. Upcoming meeting, our next school board meeting is set for Monday evening, June 10th. We'll meet at 6:30. We will be in the administration building.
Yeah, so good reminder, we will be back at the administration building after 3 meetings of celebrating and recognizing a lot of people.
Come to North that night. You'll be late when you join us in the admin building.
I wonder if that ever happened before.
Well, just to one of us, maybe. There being no further business to come before the board, the meeting is adjourned.